Possessive jealousy. Learn to recognize it and set boundaries before it's too late. What if I told you that some people lose their freedom in a relationship without ever realizing the exact moment it happened? Not because they were threatened, not because they were forced, because they slowly adapted. That is what makes possessive jealousy so dangerous. It does not always enter your life looking like control. Sometimes, it looks like being deeply desired, deeply wanted, deeply important to someone, and honestly, that can feel intoxicating. Someone wants to know where you are, who you're with, when you got home, why you sounded different on the phone. At first, it can almost feel flattering. I've never been loved this intensely. They just care. They're protective. They're scared of losing me. But here's the question almost nobody asks. At what point does feeling deeply wanted become slowly being controlled? Because possessive jealousy does not usually begin by taking away your freedom. It begins by renegotiating it. One small adjustment at a time, one explanation, one compromise, one avoided argument, one deleted post, one uncomfortable friendship you quietly stop maintaining because it's just easier this way. And before you notice, you are not simply sharing your life anymore. You are managing someone else's anxiety, watching your tone, monitoring your words, preparing answers before questions are even asked, not because you want to, because conflict became exhausting. That shift matters, because the most dangerous control in relationships is not always imposed. Sometimes it is internalized. You start doing the policing for them. You offer explanations nobody requested months ago. You justify harmless choices. You begin shrinking pieces of yourself in the name of peace. And the terrifying part? You can mistake this process for love. Because possessive jealousy rarely introduces itself by saying, "I want power over you." It usually says, "I just love you too much." Today, we're going to expose the hidden psychology behind possessive jealousy, why it often feels validating before it feels suffocating, how emotional control quietly rewrites what you consider normal, and how to set boundaries before protecting the relationship starts costing you your individuality. Here is a truth that makes people uncomfortable. Many people do not resist possessive jealousy in the beginning. Sometimes, they welcome it. Not because they want control, because they interpret it as proof of value. Think about how seductive this can be emotionally. Someone is afraid to lose you. Someone thinks about you constantly. Someone wants your attention, your presence, your reassurance. For a moment, it can feel powerful, desired, chosen, important, especially if you spent years feeling overlooked, emotionally neglected, replaceable, or invisible. That context matters more than people realize. Because possessive jealousy often knows how to touch an emotional hunger people were already carrying long before the relationship started. The hunger to feel special, secure, wanted enough that losing you would feel unbearable to someone else. And in the beginning, intense jealousy can imitate exactly that feeling. You might think they care more than anyone ever did. They fight for this relationship. They're emotionally invested. But pay attention to something subtle. Healthy love feels safe being connected to you. Possessive jealousy feels threatened by the fact that you exist outside of it. Those are radically different experiences. One celebrates your individuality. The other becomes uncomfortable whenever your attention, identity, time, or emotional energy is not fully accessible. But that difference is easy to miss when the behavior still feels emotionally flattering. Because validation is powerful. When someone acts like losing you would destroy them. Your ego can confuse that intensity with significance. You feel valuable, necessary, emotionally central. And that emotional reward can make early warning signs look smaller than they actually are. You ignore the constant checking, the subtle accusations, the need for explanations, the discomfort around your independence, because part of you is still interpreting the behavior through a romantic lens. They just love deeply. They're passionate. They've been hurt before. And this is where the dynamic quietly starts becoming dangerous. Because what initially feels like validation can slowly become permission for control. Not all at once, gradually, almost invisibly, until one day, you realize something unsettling. Your choices are changing. Your behavior is changing. Your world is becoming smaller. Not because someone explicitly demanded it, because avoiding tension slowly became easier than preserving freedom. This is the stage where possessive jealousy becomes harder to recognize, because by now, the relationship may still look normal from the outside. No dramatic ultimatums, no obvious commands, no one saying, "You are not allowed." And yet, your life begins changing, quietly, subtly, almost invisibly. You stop posting certain things, not because you wanted to, because you already know what conversation will follow. You hesitate before mentioning certain people. You explain harmless situations in advance. You soften parts of your personality to avoid misunderstandings that somehow always become arguments. Pay attention to what is happening here. Nobody may be directly controlling you, but your behavior is reorganizing itself around someone else's emotional reactions. That shift is psychologically important, because the most dangerous loss of freedom often happens through self-editing. You become your own censor. You begin calculating. Should I say this? Should I mention where I went? Will this upset them? Is this worth the emotional fallout? And slowly, spontaneity disappears. Authenticity becomes negotiation. Freedom becomes strategy. That is how emotional restriction often grows. Not through dramatic domination, through repeated adaptation. You adjust a little to keep the peace, then a little more, then a little more, until the version of yourself you once moved through the world as starts feeling strangely distant. And here is the disturbing part. Many people mistake this adaptation for maturity, compromise, relationship effort, being understanding. But healthy compromise does not require the quiet erosion of your individuality. Read that again emotionally. Healthy compromise does not demand that your personality becomes smaller to maintain emotional stability, because there is a difference between being considerate and slowly disappearing. That difference matters a lot. And this is where another psychological reversal begins to appear. The moment you try protecting your space, your privacy, your independent identity, something unexpected happens. What you experience as a healthy boundary, the possessive person may experience as betrayal, and that changes everything. This is where many people begin doubting themselves. Not because their boundaries are unreasonable, because their boundaries suddenly start getting treated like emotional crimes. You ask for privacy. You ask for personal space. You want time with friends. You protect a piece of your individuality, and somehow the conversation changes direction. Now you're being accused of creating distance, hiding something, not caring enough, not prioritizing the relationship. Think about how psychologically confusing that can become. You are not asking for secrecy. You are asking for autonomy. But to someone operating from possessive jealousy, those things can feel dangerously similar. That is the hidden reversal. Healthy boundaries say, I care about this relationship, and I also care about maintaining my individuality. Possessive thinking hears, you are pulling away from me. You don't need me enough. You are becoming harder to control emotionally. Of course, they may never say that last part out loud. But emotionally, that is often what is happening underneath the surface. Because some people do not experience boundaries as relationship health. They experience boundaries as abandonment signals, distance signals, threat signals. That does not automatically make them evil. But it does create a dynamic that can become emotionally exhausting very quickly, because now every attempt to protect your well-being risks triggering emotional panic, accusations, guilt, or conflict. And this creates a trap many people fall into without realizing it. You start minimizing your needs. Not because your needs disappeared, because maintaining your boundaries feels more emotionally expensive than surrendering them. So you explain more, justify more, reassure more, shrink more, all to prove that your boundary is not rejection, that your independence is not disloyalty, that your privacy is not secrecy. But here's the truth many people need permission to hear. You should not have to emotionally defend your right to remain an individual inside a relationship. The moment protecting your individuality consistently creates punishment, guilt, or suspicion, something deeper is happening. Because healthy love may ask for honesty. Healthy love may ask for communication. But healthy love does not require the disappearance of your separate identity in order to feel secure. And once boundaries start being treated like betrayal, another modern trap often appears. The trap disguised as transparency. The idea that unlimited access equals trust. Phones, passwords, location sharing, constant availability. The subtle belief that if you have nothing to hide, you should have nothing to protect. There is a modern relationship question almost nobody challenges enough. When did access become proof of trust? Think about that carefully. At what point did privacy become suspicious? When did healthy individuality start looking like something that needs explanation? Because possessive jealousy has evolved with modern relationships. It does not always appear as obvious restriction anymore. Sometimes it appears disguised as transparency. Share your location. Let me see your phone. If we're serious, why do you need privacy? If you have nothing to hide, what's the problem? And that last question is incredibly powerful psychologically, because it quietly shifts the burden onto you. Now you are not protecting boundaries. You are defending your innocence. That changes the emotional atmosphere completely. You are no longer discussing mutual trust. You are proving that your autonomy is not suspicious. That is a dangerous shift, because trust does not require permanent surveillance to survive. Read that again slowly. Trust does not need unlimited access to exist. Trust is not built by removing every locked door, every personal thought, every private moment of individuality. Yet many people normalize behaviors they would have questioned years earlier. Passwords become expected. Immediate replies become mandatory. Constant updates become relationship maintenance. Emotional availability becomes 24-hour accessibility. And because these behaviors are increasingly common, people stop asking an important question. Does this create security? Or does it create dependency disguised as closeness? Because surveillance does something subtle to relationships. It creates the illusion of certainty. If I know everything, I can relax. But possessive jealousy rarely becomes calmer through increased access. That is the trap. The more reassurance becomes dependent on monitoring, the more reassurance is needed. The cycle expands, not because information solved the insecurity, because insecurity learned to demand more information. And eventually, the relationship can start feeling less like connection and more like emotional compliance. You answer quickly to avoid suspicion. You overexplain to avoid tension. You become permanently reachable to preserve peace, not because intimacy deepened, because anxiety became operational. And hidden inside this dynamic, another psychological strategy quietly grows stronger: the emotional debt strategy. The moment control stops presenting itself as fear and starts presenting itself as sacrifice. Look how much I do for you. Look how much I worry. Look how much I protect this relationship. And suddenly, setting boundaries starts feeling less like self-respect and more like ingratitude. This is one of the most overlooked dynamics inside possessive jealousy. Because control does not always operate through pressure alone. Sometimes, it operates through emotional accounting, invisible accounting. The kind you do not notice immediately. Look how much I sacrifice for us. Look how much I worry about you. I protect you because I care. I only want what's best for you. On the surface, these phrases can sound loving, responsible, devoted. And that is exactly why this dynamic becomes so psychologically complicated. Because slowly, control begins presenting itself as generosity, concern, emotional investment, moral responsibility. And once that happens, something subtle changes inside you. You begin feeling indebted, not legally, emotionally. You start thinking, they do so much for me. They care so deeply. Maybe I should be more understanding. Maybe asking for boundaries is unfair. That internal shift matters, because now, the relationship is no longer operating primarily through mutual respect. It is operating through emotional obligation. You are not freely choosing accommodation. You are managing guilt, and guilt can be incredibly persuasive, especially when the other person frames their control as love, sacrifice, protection, or emotional pain. Suddenly, your boundary is not just a boundary. It feels like you are hurting someone who only wants to keep the relationship safe. That is how people begin abandoning their limits while believing they are being compassionate. But compassion without boundaries becomes self-erasure surprisingly fast. Read that again. Compassion without boundaries becomes self-erasure. Because here is the difficult truth. You can appreciate someone's feelings without surrendering your autonomy to manage them. You can understand their fears without accepting emotional restriction as the solution. You can care deeply about someone's insecurity without making your individuality responsible for calming it. That distinction changes everything. Because possessive dynamics often become stronger when guilt replaces clarity. You stop asking, "Is this healthy for me?" and start asking, "How much of myself should I sacrifice to prove my love?" That question can quietly reshape an entire relationship. And the longer this dynamic continues, the harder boundaries become. Not because you suddenly forgot what you need, because setting limits starts feeling emotionally dangerous, cold, selfish, risky, which brings us to one of the most painful realities people face before it becomes too late. Why is setting boundaries so hard, even when part of you already knows they are necessary? Most people do not struggle with boundaries because they do not know what a boundary is. Deep down, many people already know. They know something feels off. They know they are over-explaining, over-accommodating, walking on emotional glass. The real struggle is not awareness. It is fear. Fear of conflict. Fear of hurting someone you care about. Fear of being misunderstood. Fear of looking cold, selfish, insensitive. And sometimes, fear of discovering what happens when you stop adapting. Because boundaries reveal things. That is what makes them so powerful. The moment you stop negotiating your basic autonomy, you start seeing how the relationship actually responds to your individuality. That can be terrifying. Because as long as you keep adjusting, the illusion of stability survives. But boundaries test reality. They expose whether connection can coexist with your freedom or only with your compliance. Think about how many people tell themselves, "This is not the right moment." They're already stressed. "I don't want another argument. I'll bring it up later. And while you postpone the conversation, something else is happening quietly in the background. Your limits are disappearing. Not dramatically, gradually. You keep negotiating your limits, while your limits quietly disappear. That is the painful irony. You think you are preserving peace, but sometimes you are slowly training yourself to tolerate what once would have alarmed you. Because every unspoken boundary teaches your nervous system a lesson. This discomfort is manageable. This restriction is normal. This version of me is acceptable. Until one day, you wake up emotionally exhausted and wonder how you became someone who apologizes for needing space, privacy, time, or independent choices. And here is another uncomfortable truth. Many people confuse compassion with unlimited accommodation. They think love means endless flexibility, infinite understanding, constant emotional availability. But healthy love does not require the permanent negotiation of your humanity. Healthy love does not punish limits. It makes room for them. Which leads us to the question people desperately need answered. How do you actually set boundaries in a possessive dynamic without feeding endless arguments, guilt, defensiveness, or emotional chaos? Because boundaries are not just words, they are architecture, and most people were never taught how to build them. Most people think boundaries are conversations designed to convince the other person. That is the first mistake. Because if you believe your boundary only becomes valid after the other person agrees with it, you will spend your life negotiating your right to exist comfortably. A boundary is not permission you ask for. It is information you provide about what protects your well-being. That changes the entire approach. Because setting boundaries inside possessive dynamics is not about winning debates, it is about creating clarity, calmly, specifically, consistently, without turning your basic autonomy into a courtroom trial. For example, notice how many people respond to possessive behavior by over-explaining. Long justifications, detailed defenses, endless reassurance, trying to prove innocence, trying to make the other person emotionally comfortable with your boundary before actually holding it. But here is what often happens. The more you defend your right to privacy, space, or independence, the more the conversation becomes centered around whether you deserve those things in the first place. And that is a dangerous trap. Because your basic autonomy should not require cross-examination. A healthier boundary sounds different. Calm, clear, behavior-based, not aggressive, not apologetic, simple. I care about this relationship and I am not comfortable with constant phone checking. I understand your feelings and I still need personal space. I am willing to communicate openly. I am not willing to live under continuous monitoring. Notice the difference. No attack, no emotional performance, no begging for approval. Just information, clarity, structure. That matters because possessive dynamics often feed on emotional escalation, endless circular arguments, repeated reassurance, boundary fatigue, the feeling that you must explain yourself until the other person emotionally releases you. But boundaries are not built through emotional exhaustion. They are built through calm repetition, consistency, alignment between words and behavior. And here is the difficult truth many people need to hear. Not everyone will like your boundaries. Not everyone will celebrate your individuality. Sometimes, the moment you stop over-accommodating, resistance appears. That resistance tells you something important, because boundaries do not only protect your well-being, they reveal the relationship's relationship with your freedom. And that brings us back to the question that changes everything. Are you inside love or slowly inside ownership? So let's return to the question that started this conversation. What if the person controlling your life genuinely believes they are protecting the relationship? That possibility is uncomfortable because it forces us to confront something many people do not want to admit. Possessive jealousy is not always dangerous because it is loud. Sometimes, it is dangerous because it becomes normal, slowly, quietly, emotion by emotion, compromise by compromise, until behaviors that once felt invasive start feeling expected, necessary, even romantic. That is how emotional restriction becomes normalized, not through dramatic control alone, through repetition, adaptation, the gradual rewriting of what you believe love is supposed to feel like. And that is why this conversation matters. Because love and ownership can sometimes sound disturbingly similar on the surface. Both want closeness. Both fear distance. Both care about connection. But underneath, they operate from completely different emotional foundations. Love says, I want honesty. Ownership says, I want access. Love says, I care about your well-being. Ownership says, I need control to feel secure. Love respects individuality. Ownership becomes threatened by it. That distinction can change the way someone understands their entire relationship. Because real love does not require permanent surveillance. It does not require emotional shrinking. It does not demand proof of loyalty every time you protect your privacy, your friendships, your identity, your personal space. Healthy love can ask difficult questions. Healthy love can experience insecurity. Healthy love can need communication and reassurance. But healthy love does not require the disappearance of your individuality in order to survive. Read that again slowly. Love can ask for honesty. It cannot demand the disappearance of your individuality. And maybe that is the question I want you to leave with today. Have you ever confused feeling deeply wanted with slowly being controlled? Have you ever mistaken emotional intensity, constant attention, or someone's fear of losing you for proof that the relationship was deeply loving? And if you recognized yourself somewhere in this conversation, what changed the moment you realized the difference?